This is John Contreras, Greek-American journalist. I'm coming to you live from Los Angeles. Today we have the 6th of April, 2017. The time here in Los Angeles is 5:08 p.m. I'm coming to you with a special report about what is going on right now, okay, with regards to Trump's all of a sudden change in stance on Assad and his government, as well as for Syria in general. This broadcast is being done mainly for UCY.TV. That's UCY.TV. I'm going to show it to you on the screen right now. They are one of the greatest patriotic web radios out there with a big audience and a lot of prominent speakers, including, of course, yours truly. My show is played there every Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it is called Greek News on Demand, after the name of our website, GreekNewsOnDemand.com. So this is going live right now on Facebook. So please take the link and share it everywhere with all your friends. Here on Facebook and on social media, you can take this video, you can download it, whatever. So, we have a lot of breaking news going on right now with regards to Trump's sudden change of heart. With regards to Assad, before he was for Assad for the most part, and he was against U.S. intervention in Syria. He's been that way for years. Even during the whole presidential campaign, he was like that. But, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed that he's been flip-flopping a lot. Especially since day one. Not even day one. He was already flip-flopping right before all of his supporters' eyes, even during the campaign. And all these dinglings, for lack of a better expression, were so enamored with this psychopath that they couldn't basically apply one word of criticism against him. At all. Because they're that, they're that dumb, unfortunately. Look, I was dumb once in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, I voted for Bush twice, like a fool. And I ended up coming to the truth, having my Jesus moment with regards to politics, and I repented. Trust me. And it's been that way ever since 2007. Thank God. Okay? For 10 years now, I've been sober. With regards to politics here, because I've realized one thing over the years, that it's all BS, that both Democrats and Republicans serve the same puppet masters. It's called the powerful Zionist Jews. It's called the Rothschild family out of the Crown of England, the most powerful family in the world, along with other powerful Jewish cohorts and allies that founded Israel, that control central banking around the world. And if, of course, you control banking, you can control nations' destinies. You can control nations' fates. That is a given. So, what has Donald Trump done? He's been flip-flopping. Constantly. Ever since the 21st of January 2017, and even before that during the campaign. For example, during the campaign, I believe it was May of last year, he had hired on Steve Mnuchin as his one of his financial advisors. Who's Steve Mnuchin? A guy who's heavily connected with Goldman Sachs and George Soros. End of story. And then throughout the whole campaign, he was saying he was against George Soros and Goldman Sachs. Does that make sense to anyone? Of course it doesn't. Okay? It doesn't make sense. Okay? What makes sense is the fact that Trump is a two-face. That Trump was playing all of his supporters, okay? Stringing them along, making them believe that he was going to make America great again. When in reality, that stupid phrase, make America great again, he borrowed it from Bill Clinton, his longtime pal. His longtime close associate, Bill Clinton, okay? Bill Clinton invented that phrase in 1992 for his campaign, and then he revived it in 2008 for his wife, Hillary. Do you get that? Gee, I hope so. So even during the campaign, he was flip-flopping. On the one hand, he was saying he was against banks. On the other hand, and of course George Soros. But on the other hand, he was hiring people connected with the big banks and George Soros. And people are just so stupid, willfully stupid, I would say, that they didn't want to basically call them out on that and say, hey, what the heck is this? I want to vote for you. And all of a sudden, you're putting a guy on your team who's connected with George Soros and Goldman Sachs. My goodness, Mr. Trump, please don't disappoint us here. You got our vote. Come on now. Not one word for them because they're that dumb. And I don't even think they're dumb. I just think they're willfully dumb. I just think they're all, a lot of them are just two-faced. They couldn't give a shit, for lack of a better expression, excuse my French, because they themselves are, like I said, two-faced. They themselves are corrupt. They themselves have wicked hearts. And they couldn't give a damn what Trump does to this country as long as he lines their pocket, as long as he supports them. Really, that's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. So this show's going to be played this Saturday on UCY.tv. Very fantastic online web radio. Let's take a look. Okay, here it is, UCY.tv. Here's a link. Please go there now and listen in to all their broadcasts.
For a long time now, I don't know how many years, I don't really keep track.
So you can hear one broadcast being played right now.
Committed to do this, so
go there when you have time, okay, and listen to them throughout the day. So I really thank them there, and I appreciate them for hosting our show, Greek News on Demand. And we're going to be coming out with some really, really key interviews for UCY.tv within the very, very near future. I mean, exclusive interviews with big-name people. So you're not going to want to miss it. But like I said, in the meantime, they already have a lot of great speakers, a lot of great programs with great information. So, check it out and enjoy, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy. For example, they got the Boiling Frogs show. They've got Mr. Alan Watt. They've got a lot of other big-name bloggers and activists. So basically, you're not going to want to miss these shows. Now, going back to Trump, okay? Trump, ladies and gentlemen, is basically an individual who's had a very, very long, dirty past, okay? Just to preface what I'm going to talk about. He's got a long, dirty past with both the Jewish and Italian mafia. Trump, ladies and gentlemen, is born and bred of the Jewish mafia straight out of New York. His mentor was Roy Cohn, R-O-I-C-O-H-N, okay? And who is Roy Cohn? Well, he's the former head of the Jewish mafia. Roy Cohn's father ran the Anti-Defamation League for years, okay? Roy Cohn was a very prominent lawyer in New York. But he was also very much heavily involved in crime, okay? In organized crime, all right? And basically, Mr. Roy Cohn was basically prodded on. He was encouraged to contact Mr. Joseph McCarthy back in the 50s, okay? And to tell him, hey, you know what? I want to be part of your team against communists. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Jews and communists, you have to understand one thing. Jews and communism are one and the same. Jews invented communism. That dates back to the Rothschilds' agent Moses Hess back in Germany in the early 1800s. Okay? And communism was not only created by him, but he also created, in parallel with communism, Zionism. Because Zionism is also one and the same with communism. Okay, it's nothing more than basically a corollary of Zionism. Okay, it's a subset of communism. Zionism, I'm talking about. Because Zionism, when it first began to take root illegally in Palestine back at the turn of the century, they're the ones who created the first kibbutz. Kibbutz, hello? The first communes, hello? So, if anyone out there would like to check out more about the work that I do, you can check out my personal website, johnkunturis.com, as you're hearing it now or seeing it on YouTube. That is spelled JOHNKOUNTOURIS. one of those very long Greek last names, and I apologize. John Koun as in Nancy, T as in Tom, Ouris, okay? Or you can find me, ladies and gentlemen, on Facebook by just typing in that same exact name, John Contreras, here on Facebook, all right? So let's get back to Trump, okay? Basically, if you type in the English section of my website, GreekNewsOnDemand.com, okay? If you go to GreekNewsOnDemand.com, that is one word. GreekNewsOnDemand.com. All right. Go to the English section. We have an exclusive English section just for our English readers. Okay. It's in the black bar that you see in the front. Just click on that. Okay. As I'm showing you now on the screen and as I'm describing for radio listeners. And just scroll through that particular page and you'll see all of our exclusive articles there. Bombshell articles that basically reveal very, very powerful truths about what's really going on in Washington these days, what's going on in Syria, what's going on with Trump, what's going on with Hillary Clinton, why Trump has not put her in prison yet. What's going on with Alex Jones, why did he all of a sudden change his stance on Pizzagate, etc., etc. So you're going to enjoy that section, and there's just tons and tons of articles there to comb through. So scroll through it because there I've included a lot about Trump. Also, too, if you have Greek listeners out there, okay, Greek friends or wherever on social media, or maybe one of your neighbors happens to be Greek, tell them about GreekNewsOnDemand.com, okay, as you can see it on your screen. Again, that's one word, GreekNewsOnDemand.com, and tell them to see my article about Trump. And basically, they're gonna see the truth about what's going on with this guy, because unfortunately, there's a lot of Greeks out there, ladies and gentlemen, who just think he is the shit. He is the best thing since sliced bread. When in reality, he's the worst thing that's ever happened in America since the devil himself. And that's just reality, folks, because as the Bible says, what does the devil do? He doesn't come to you with his two little horns like this and a red cape with a red pitchfork. He never comes to you that way. That's only what Hollywood shows you the devil to be. The Bible says that he comes as an angel of light, deceiving many. Oh, yeah. He comes in the form of people like, Trump, who acts like he's this great anti-New World Order patriot, when in reality, all he's been doing, like I said, is flip-flopping. And people out there who apparently never learned to think for themselves still think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, when he's the worst thing since, like, the devil. And I'm not even exaggerating here, folks. I mean, he is full-on implementing New World Order devilish plans for America, for Syria, for Greece. Okay, for Greece. Yes, you heard that correctly. If people really think that Donald Trump loves Greece, I mean, especially if you're Greek, you're fooling yourself. And why do I say that? Well, what has he done for Greece so far? What has he said about Greece? Nothing. On March 25th this year, which is Greek Independence Day, which we celebrate every March 25th, he said, I love the Greeks, and that was about it. He spent like 2 minutes saying, I love the Greeks. I see them all the time in New York. Really? What else do you know about the Greeks? What else can you say about Greece? Do you know anything about our Greek economic crisis, President Trump, for which you are responsible right now? Because the United States is one of the main shareholders of the IMF, and the IMF plays a major role in what goes on with Greece. Do you know about that? Do you care about that? Have you been informed about that? Do you give a shit at all? Apparently not. Because if he really did, first of all, he'd see the value in the Greek people and their culture and what they'd offer the world, and he would have helped them right away. He would have said something like, we really need to do something to stop this horrible 7-year plan to bail out the Greeks, quote unquote, which has done nothing more than to destroy them and their economy and their livelihoods and so on and so forth. He hasn't done any of that because he doesn't care. because he's following a particular agenda, a New World Order agenda, that entails destroying Greece. And you can be sure of that. That's why we at GreekNewsOnDemand.com are trying our best, ladies and gentlemen, to tell you the truth about what's going on with the Greek economic crisis, to also use the connections that we have, particularly with Hollywood, okay, with political figures, with media figures like Mr. Larry Nichols, who just gave us an exclusive interview, which is going to be published in a top Greek newspaper on Saturday, called The Free Hour, or in Greek, Eleftheri Ora, The Free Hour. It's going to be published, and it's going to be huge, because it's going to have to do with Mr. Larry Nichols' plan to help save Greece. And since, of course, he's the guy that made the Clintons what they are, and since, of course, he is now their opponent, and since he knows a lot of deep things about Washington, okay, and since he was a former advisor to the Kuwaiti government on matters that involved the extraction of natural resources, we asked him to give us an exclusive interview on how Greece can begin to utilize its own natural resources for the benefit of every Greek in Greece, so that Greece can be saved from the situation that they're in right now. But of course, we understand that entails that getting rid of the Greek government that's there now. But don't worry, we'll get there too. So, what's going on right now, and again, when I do my shows, as you all know, this, of course, has to do with Greece and Greek politics, so no matter what I talk about, whether it's directly about Greece or indirectly about Greece, in the end, I always tie it in with Greece. But I try, of course, to talk about the world political scene. I try to talk about basically, what's going on in the world, analyze world political events, and basically show you how it ties in with Greece. But it's important, though. It's important, though, for my audience to hear from my viewpoint, particularly with the context that I have and the experience that I have as a journalist, to hear my opinions about what's going on in world politics in general. So I got some really exciting videos for you, so please stand by. Basically, like I said, Trump's been flip-flopping major, big time. So basically, Syria is the next issue here, right? Syria is the major issue. So what's been going on with Trump? I'm going to explain it to you, okay, in a nutshell. And then we're going to basically go to some key videos from some key journalists that have the whole lowdown for us, like Mr. Gordon Duff from Veterans Today. So in a nutshell, let me explain what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so Israel is now in full frickin' swing for the Greater Israel Project. All right? All you got to do is just go to Partisan Girls page on Facebook, or Syrian Girl. All right? She's very well known. She's more known as Syrian Girl. All right? But I think she has another account now called Partisan Girl. Go check out all her tweets, okay? From the past few days, and you're gonna freak out. Why? Because she lives in Syria, she sees what's going on, and she's a very key journalist. All right? She appears on TV, etc., etc. So what's going on? Well, on the 4th, Donald Trump comes out and says, I'm disappointed with President Assad. I thought he's a good guy. He's really disappointed us. La la la, blah blah blah. Excuse me. How has he disappointed you? The West has already accused him, okay, of gas attacks against his own people. That's since like September of 2013, if I recall correctly. And ever since then, you haven't really cared about what the mainstream news propaganda has said about Assad. As a matter of fact, what you've said, Mr. Trump, is that we should just stay out of Syria. It's not our fight. It's not our business. And that if we were to go intervene there, there would be severe repercussions. You've been talking that way ever since that time. Okay? And again, that was after the first quote-unquote chemical attack that Assad did, quote-unquote, which he didn't do. That's all a lie. Okay? And I'm going to tell you who did it. because I have exclusive information for you. So all of a sudden he's changed his stance because an apparent second chemical attack has taken place, and that happened 2 days ago on the 4th of this month, right? So all of a sudden Trump has changed his opinion, when in reality for years he's been speaking against this. Why? Why is that? Let's take a look, first of all, at some of the tweets he's tweeted in recent years with regards to the U.S. government's policy of taking out Assad. And remember, the U.S. policy changed all of a sudden a couple of years ago, whereupon the whole world found out that the real culprits behind ISIS are none other than Obama and Hillary. And, of course, Israel, Qatar, Turkey, and so on and so forth. That was via the major court case, the major Judicial Watch court case at the Supreme Court, where attorneys from Judicial Watch, okay, from this activist attorney group, have subpoenaed documents from both the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, and Hillary Clinton's State Department, with regards to certain activities of Obama's government dating back to August of 2012. And what did we learn? Well, we learned that since from August 2012 and on, Obama and his government were already supporting ISIS, preparing them to invade both Iraq and Syria. Gee, isn't that interesting? Yes, you heard that correctly. And, after that, Obama was forced to then change policy and say, we're for Assad. Wait a minute. No, we're not against. We're for him, and we're against ISIS. So now we're going to send soldiers in there and, do away with ISIS. Well, that's all a lie, because he hasn't done jack diddly squat with regards to ISIS. He's done absolutely nothing. All right? So, from what Trump is saying now, he's continuing Obama's policy. What does that imply? Well, if he's continuing Obama's policy, I would think he'd be continuing then Obama's policy of supporting ISIS. Wouldn't you say so? Now, let's look at these tweets from this utter dumbass. And look how he's flip-flopped. Donald Trump back in the 29th of August, 2013. What does he say here? He says, "What will we get for bombing Syria, besides more debt and a possible long-term conflict? Obama needs congressional approval." Okay, what did he say on September the 3rd, 2013? "What I'm saying is stay out of Syria." Interesting, very interesting, Mr. Trump. What did he say on the 5th of September, 2013? Okay, these are just a few examples, ladies and gentlemen. Again, to our very foolish leader, meaning Obama, "Do not attack Syria. If you do, many very bad things will happen, and from that fight, the U.S. gets nothing." Gee, isn't that something? And gee, what did the Associated Press just tweet yesterday, April the 5th, 2017? Breaking news, President Donald Trump condemns chemical attack in Syria as an effort, as an quote, affront to humanity, quote, that, quote, cannot be tolerated, end quote. Referring to Assad and implying, of course, that he was behind it. Okay? Now, let's go to exclusive Gordon Duff interview. With, of course, Veterans Today, one of the top alternative news websites out there. Gordon Duff is their editor, right? Exclusive graphic video. The truth behind Syria gas attacks. Will Russia back down? Okay, Gordon Duff, April the 5th, 2017. If you wondered why Turkey paid so much cash to General Flynn, Michael Flynn, in other words, who is now, quote-unquote, ratting out Russia, the game will be exposed here. Now, let's take a listen. And you're going to find this very, very interesting. Here's Gordon Duff on the great Iranian-owned channel
Security sources have described as false
Press
allegations
TV.
Syrian forces performing a deadly chemical attack in a militant-held town in Idlib. They say that the militants were trying to achieve in the media what they could not achieve on the ground. Earlier, the Syrian military strongly rejected allegations of conducting the chemical operation. The army said that it has never used and will never use chemical weapons. The Russian Defense Ministry has also reacted by saying that its planes have not conducted any airstrikes in the town of Khan, Sheikhun, and Idlib. Comments were made after the so-called Syrian Observatory for Human Rights blamed the attack on Syrian forces and the Russian allies.
Now, I'm going to stop the video really quick. So, for my radio listeners, let me describe something. You're seeing a video that's being played. It's being played on Press TV. It's video that was provided, of course, to the media everywhere, worldwide. In the top right-hand corner, it says unconfirmed video. Note this, unconfirmed video. Gee, what does that mean? Unconfirmed video, meaning they're not sure if this is from the gas attacks, number one. Below we read Syria chemical attack, quote unquote. Syria rejects allegations of using chemical arms. Let's continue.
The EU Foreign Policy Chief has commented by saying that the Damascus government bears responsibility without laying the blame on any side.
Today the news is awful, but this is a dramatic reminder of the fact that the situation on the ground still continues to be dramatic.
The British Foreign Secretary has called for an investigation into the horrific chemical attack, saying that those responsible should be held to account. Meanwhile, the French Foreign Minister has called for an emergency meeting of the U.S. Security Council to address the issue. The suspected chemical attack on the militant-held town of Khan Sheikhun has killed 58 people, including nearly a dozen children. Scores of people have also been wounded. The Syrian government has repeatedly blamed the terrorists for such attacks, including one in northern Aleppo last year. Back in 2014, Syria handed in all of its chemical weapons to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons for Destruction. Gordon Duff, senior editor at Veterans Today, joins us from Ohio. So you have a chemical attack, horrific incident that has happened here. Why don't you weigh in on how this has happened, who is to blame, and the blames that are being thrown about? How do you see it?
Well, I traveled with a group to Syria in 2014 and again in 2015. I met with the Syrian Ministry of Justice, security officials there, Syria's chief of security. We reviewed their evidence on the gas attacks. We also did an independent investigation, and it wasn't very hard to figure out who exactly was responsible. We expected this attack, the obvious things, where and when. The Turks are renewing their interest in Idlib as they have been blocked from achieving their goals by combined U.S. and Russia action that kept them away from the town of Manjib. We knew they were looking for a ploy to move into Idlib. This is it. The Turks have been responsible in one way or another for all of the gas attacks in Syria, working with propaganda groups, the primary one. And this investigation was initially led by Press TV's Serena Shim, who died mysteriously in an automobile accident that we have strong suspicions was something else. But we've tracked this down to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which is a front group for a military contracting firm in the U.S. run by a former assistant to Nia Khan, White House advisor Condoleezza Rice. This is Jared Cohen's Google Idea Groups, and they've been involved in terror attacks more than once. They were involved in the earlier sarin gas attacks in Ghouta. We have absolutely slam dunk evidence. Russia tried to present this evidence to the UN Security Council. The French are trying to drag them in, and the Security Council, of course, refuses to accept real evidence of any kind. They're absolute puppets. Now, these attacks have occurred over and over. They have always been shown to have not just been the rebels, but the people that backed them. There have been facilities inside Syria that have been captured. There have been chemical weapons experts from both Saudi Arabia and Turkey that are in detention in Syria right now, and no one will listen to that either. That this is tried again, and that more civilians are being murdered, and that the same suspects, the British and the French and the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights are trying to push this into an international incident based on terrorism that they're quite likely just as complicit in staging. Is shameful, inexcusable, and it's about time we brought the right people to trial over this. For these human rights violations and these war crimes, we can prove who they are. The Russians can prove who they are. It's about time it was done, and it's about time maybe that President Trump took a stand on these issues.
Thank you for that. We appreciate it. Gordon Duff, Senior Editor at Veterans Today from Ohio.
Okay, you just heard Gordon Duff. He's a top journalist. He's the owner, of course, of this site. So here's what he writes in his article. You just saw the clip that precedes the article. Here's what he writes. Editor's note, with the role of George Clooney's white helmets, quote unquote, along with the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights in exploiting what we believe to be the Turkish sarin gas attack on Syria yesterday, both Veterans Today and Press TV have been under continual cyber attack. Isn't that something? Ayan's story yesterday had it right from the beginning, and information is flowing into Veterans Today from sources in Turkey, Syria, and from Russia as well. With the role of the white helmets in exploiting this story, we are already to conclude the serious possibility that this was a planned terror attack and that some U.S.-based group, most likely the CIA, has a role in this. We are increasingly suspicious of Clooney as his wife, of course, Kamal, what's-her-name, Clooney, who's actually a tranny, ladies and gentlemen, if you examine the goods carefully. Clooney and his wife, quote-unquote, apparently has ties to all this, according to our sources, with Israeli intelligence. Okay? Listen to that. Because Gordon Duff and Veterans Today, they get intelligence everywhere, including, of course, Israeli intelligence. Now, they are an anti-Zionist website and anti-New World Order website, but they are very well connected, though, with the intelligence communities of many nations because they are composed of former, the whole media group is composed of former CIA officials, intelligence analysts, military officers from the U.S. Army, and so on and so forth. That's why. So you know who's speaking to you here. So you know. Okay, so Amal Clooney has represented Yulia Tymoshenko, Julian Assange, and Mohammed Fahmy, Qatar's press puppet, with Al Jazeera in Egypt. Clooney is clearly being groomed. Right? So he gives us here a UN Security Council commentary on all of this. Okay, so he's saying that all these aforementioned parties, including WikiLeaks, are part of this cover-up. Now, Veterans Today has made it clear, okay, that they believe Julian Assange, of course, is a Zionist puppet. End of story. So basically, he mentions here, too, that George Clooney and his white helmets in Syria are behind this, okay? Now, who are the white helmets? The white helmets are nothing more than another terrorist group in Syria who are connected with the Syrian opposition. So, the white helmets, okay, according to my solid research, get major funding from U.S. corporations, including Netflix. Yes, you heard that correctly. Netflix. Google or go to YouTube. Type in Netflix, white helmets, and you'll see what I mean. Now, what's interesting is I was just offered a big job by Netflix to go to San Francisco to work as a Greek linguist technician on all their new software, okay? And I haven't made a decision yet as to what I want to do about that. Now, if I were to make a decision on this, trust me, I'd be making this decision, ladies and gentlemen, very wisely, and for reasons that have to do with my, let's say, for example, very revealing career as a journalist. I would most definitely, if I were to take this position, exploit it for journalistic purposes. I think you guys know what I mean. So, let's just leave it at that. So, this is very revealing information that they're giving us here from Veterans Today about Turkey's role in all this. And as we're going to see now, indeed, Turkey has played a huge role in all this. I mean, this is just unbelievable, and how Donald Trump is not even talking about this. Donald Trump, first of all, has major business interests in Turkey. He's got Trump Towers in Istanbul, which is really Constantinople, okay? When your friends try to tell you that are not Greek, that the capital is Istanbul, no, you tell them it's Constantinople, okay? So, let us now go to some videos here from Israeli News Live, a very interesting independent news, small news bureau, okay? These people seem to be anti-Zionist. Apparently they are these type of messianic type of Jews that believe in Jesus Christ and things of that sort. And they don't believe in what the criminal state of Israel is doing today. And they don't believe that what they're doing is fulfilling quote-unquote biblical prophecy. But besides all that, they actually sound pretty good. And they actually got some really good information on the ground. And they're very good at gathering information and disseminating to the public, and they're very revealing and honest. So let's take a look at a few of their clips, okay? And then after that, we're going to close out here. So the first clip that I'm going to show you is a news broadcast that they did on April the 3rd, 2017, a few days ago. Exactly one day before the quote-unquote chemical attacks in Syria, one day before this. Notice what he says, what was going on one day, at least one day, before the chemical attacks. Here we go.
Covering, I'm Stephen Benoon. You're watching Israeli News Live. Very serious, very breaking story. We already know earlier today there was the explosion there that happened inside of St. Petersburg, Russia at the subway, killing 10, 47 injured. But now, even more serious breaking news, it appears to be that President Trump is sending a massive amount of military equipment to Beirut, Lebanon, for what might very well possibly be an invasion inside of Syria, maybe even Damascus itself. Let me take and show you what's going on. Remember, President Trump vowed not to reveal or disclose the information about how U.S. troops, where they would go, how. Now, you are looking right here, and I will play the video for you a little bit here. This was the massive military hardware that was, all this hardware, all of it, desert camo painted. So many people were asking questions. Why are they sending the desert camo to Europe? Well, finally they come out and say, well, we're going to paint it once it gets there. But there were some, even my good friend Lorenzo there with Already Happened, that suggested that maybe it's planning on being shipped down to the Middle East at some point or time. Well, that ends up being the actual case. It was a diversion. Maybe all along President Trump has only been playing President Putin just to buy time and to slip into Syria through the back door, you might say there. So now, in Israel, looking like Israel is very much going to be involved in a possible invasion inside of Syria. Don't forget, we know that President Putin was warned by Prime Minister Netanyahu back in December, according to Russian media, that Israel was planning an invasion. Now, not so much against the Syrian army, I don't believe, but more so because the Iraqis and Hezbollah that are on their border there. Let's take a look at what goes on. First, the equipment came into Germany. Then, as Zero Hedge reported, and many others reported as well, American troops roll into Poland in largest deployment since the Cold War. Look at the photographs. All of that nice, beautiful desert camo equipment headed into Poland from Germany, right? Now, they did have a little bit of it that was green as well that'll stay behind in Poland for any kind of incursion with the Russian forces later down the road. But after it ends up in Poland, then guess what happens? Well, you got it. Now it was headed to Romania. All that desert camo headed down towards the desert from Poland to Romania. Just got this video in here today. I got to share that with you as well. Again, another video footage there that was showing when the equipment was first coming from Poland headed to none other than Romania. And of course, what is it? All the desert camo equipment headed down to Romania. train after train after trainload of it was sent to Romania. Interesting, isn't it? And as you just saw just a second ago here, and you're seeing all the light armored vehicles and etc., but don't forget, as I was sharing with you here, I don't want to take all the time to show you the entire video, but you can see the train cars. This was going to Romania as well. U.S. military, actually this one says arrived heavy machinery in Romania. It had already arrived in Romania. And these are the Bradley fighting tanks there, I believe. All right, now what do we have now? Lorenzo, our good friend here, sent this out yesterday. He's followed it all along. This here is the Passion, another one of those giant arc ships in Romania there. And yes, guess what it does there? It was loaded up with all those desert camo military equipment and slipping its way down towards Beirut, Lebanon. Now, Lorenzo had stated on one of the comments here, he said he thinks it's going to Beirut. But at the time wasn't for sure. Had to wait to see what direction that ship was going to go. Well, after about 24 hours, now we have the expected course there. And on April the 4th, according to the sea tracking ship there, it is going to dock at Lebanon. Beirut, Lebanon, no less there. Great job, Lorenzo. Bless you, my brother, for your investigative journalist work there. Really appreciate the work that he does there. Let's look at the map here, just so we get a little idea. What do we have? It came into Germany. From Germany, took by train and by actually convoy, driven all the way to Poland. But the green was left behind, and the desert camo was put on trains in Poland and then shipped down there to Romania, all the way down to that port down there. Thrown on a tanker there and now being slipped down there, right there to the port of Beirut. Came through that little Turkish channel there, nobody paying any attention there. And all the while, right there in Greece, we have the Israeli Air Force, the Turkish Air Force, United Arab Emirates, the United States, all participating in military drills. For what? Well, you got it. To how to evade the S-300 system, according to our newspaper there. Remember, Simon Tov, in the interview that Yana did just the other day, Yana Ben-Nun did the interview with him, and he was stating about that very military exercise. What is Israeli bombers doing practicing how to evade the S-300? Well, we could think about Iran, and I don't think Simon Tov was really thinking that Israel was planning on making a hit on Syria, but it looks like Syria is going to be the target. Don't forget, even Ron Paul here makes a statement as well. Trump, ISIS plan another U.S. invasion. Well, he thinks it's ISIS. I don't think it's ISIS at all. It might be the excuse when the U.S. goes inside of Syria. But no doubt, Damascus is definitely what's on the agenda here. All you got to do is zoom in and look at Beirut, Lebanon. It's a direct major highway right into Damascus. Down here in southern Lebanon, that happens to be southern Lebanon. That's Hezbollah's stronghold. But the Lebanese military, which is under Catholic Church control, that's where the U.S. can come right into Damascus. Israel coming up from the south side of Damascus. We already know Damascus is surrounded by the Free Syrian Army and other fighting factions, al-Nusra, al-Qaeda, all in this region around surrounding Damascus right now. Damascus being bombarded on a daily basis. Now, the opportune time to step in there. Now, you might think, well, Israel's really not going to go after Damascus. Maybe not. Maybe Israel is really looking to go after Hezbollah and the Iranian forces and drive them out, right? Well, here's something to think about to go with all of that as well. Of course, we know Israel begins extensive military drills in the Golan Heights. That was something that was just reported to by your Newswire. It's been reported actually on several media outlets. The Israeli Defense Forces IDF began extensive military drills in the Golan Heights despite heightened tensions with Syria. The exercises come at a time of increased tensions with Syria, who reportedly shot down an Israeli warplane following airstrikes on targets in their country. Now, if it's true, if Syria did take down an Israeli warplane, that's all the more reason why Israel would justify an incursion inside the country as a promise to take out all of the S-300 systems, all of Syria's capabilities that are in that country there. But we also have the reports, too, that the Syrian rebels, according to Ynet News, has offered to sell the Golan to Israel in return for military aid. The Free Syrian Army, the Syrian rebels that are fighting to overthrow Bashar al-Assad, who are surrounded around Damascus right now, they've offered to give the Golan Heights to Israel in exchange for some military assistance and backing them up. Looks like Israel may find that deal a little bit too attractive to bypass. I don't say I agree with it. I don't think it's right to do. I think that President Bashar al-Assad, if anything, Israel and the United States ought to be helping Russia to defeat ISIS, to defeat all these terrorist groups that are inside the country there so that this country could rebuild.
Let's go now to his next video, okay? So, what this gentleman just did was give us some very, very key information from mainstream news media, from very key and reliable blogs like yournewswire.com, which is a very credible blog, news blog, all right? Let's look what he says now, all right, on, okay, the day after, ladies and gentlemen. So, this next video with the title, U.S. Syrian Invasion Planned Months Ago, all right? This is actually on April the 5th, 2017. Same gentleman, all right? Now look what he says, all right? Now, again, what you just saw was a video that was done on April the 3rd, the day after the chemical attacks took place, all right? Let's see the next video.
Arab Told covering. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. A very disturbing message this evening. It crossed a lot of lines. According to President Donald Trump, the Syrian gas attack that has been blamed on the Assad government for this attack there is what President Trump is saying, crossing a lot of lines. But the question is, has President Trump been building up the front lines as he claims that Assad has been crossing his own lines? Going into this, again, I must warn you, this will be a very serious message, and it'll also have some graphic images in there that could be disturbing, especially for younger viewers. Please be advised of that as we move forward. Everything that we're seeing that is happening, RT is reporting this, of course many others are reporting it as well, that President Donald Trump has spoken about crossing a lot of lines. President Donald Trump, speaking at the White House, and the King Abdullah II of Jordan told reporters he would have to do whatever he had to do in the Middle East. It crossed a lot of lines with me. When you will kill innocent children, innocent babies with chemical gas, that goes beyond the red lines, Trump told reporters on Wednesday. Now, I have to tell you, in all fairness, as we go into this, has President Trump, is he only a pawn in the game and not fully aware of the details of the movement of his own military as this is going on right now? Is he in the dark of what the military is doing? Don't forget, as we know, what happened years ago with General Wesley Clark and what he said. I'll play just a little segment of this for you again. Listen to this.
Wolfowitz, I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper. He said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense office today. And he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
That's terrible. Absolutely terrible. But as I stated, I wanted you to hear that again. Remember in 2013, the sarin gas attack that was blamed on President Bashar al-Assad that gave the justification for President Obama to actually enter into a conflict with Syria. Now, Obama never put in a large contingent of troops on the ground there. He always swore that he would not do it. But since then, President Trump has been building up a very sizable force in the north part of the country dealing with Raqqa. Now, but remember that those of you that remember that it's Eren Erdem, the former MP member of the Turkish government, that really brought out the smoking gun that exonerated President Bashar al-Assad of any guilt of using sarin gas on his own people. And instead, as he was facing treason charges for bringing this information out, was able to prove that the ISIS had brought the sarin gas through the Turkish government's borders inside of Syria and was using this chemical weapon on about the time back in September of 2013. Listen to what Eren Erdem had to say there, just to show you exactly what he says.
That Islamic State in Syria allegedly received material to make deadly sarin gas via Turkey. The MP said an inquiry was opened into the incident, but then was abruptly closed. Chemical weapon materials were brought to Turkey and put together in ISIL camps in Syria, which was known as the Iraqi Al-Qaeda at the time. We have recordings to confirm this. A public prosecutor opened an investigation, which led to those involved being detained. A week later, another public prosecutor was assigned, and all the detainees were released. They left Turkey, crossing the Syrian border.
Now he goes on into that, and I'll place the link on here for you just to be able to see this information. But it clearly exonerated President Bashar al-Assad, the information that Eren Erdem was able to make public here. Not only did he reveal this information to RT News, but he actually spoke as a parliament member before his own parliament inside of Syria. I've actually listened to those hearings that he did, and the evidence was overwhelming. In fact, it angered the members of parliament because he also had evidence that the prime minister at that time and even possibly the president, Erdogan, of Turkey, were fully aware of the transfer of the sarin gas from Turkey inside of Syria by the Al-Qaeda members, by the ISIS groups that were coming in there. What was even more alarming is that he also seemed to have the evidence but was not willing to bring it forth. The United States was aware of it but only turned a blind eye, and as well, European partners were also involved in this information. Of course, even more troubling is we have the British journalist Seymour Hersh, who also had the evidence that showed that under Hillary Clinton, when she was Secretary of State, that she had authorized the movement of sarin gas from Libya into Syria. Very troubling indeed.
There you heard it from this channel here, Israeli News Live. They're pretty good. They sound like they're anti-Zionists. They sound like they know what they're talking about. They quoted basically RT on basically a Turkish parliament member who back in 2013 had revealed to the whole world that Erdogan basically on behalf of Israel, United States, and other terror-sponsoring countries allowed basically the Iraqi Al-Qaeda to go through his country, Turkey, in order to invade Syria so as to release these sarin gas bomb attacks on Assad. And to close, when they say that Assad had just released sarin gas on his people, ladies and gentlemen, Syria has not had sarin gas stockpiles for years now. So that in itself proves that the media is lying 100% about Assad. Trump knows it. He's lying too. Because like I just told you, he's known, ladies and gentlemen, that Assad is not the bad guy here. He's known, and he stated openly, that we should not, that basically us invading Syria would be a disaster. We shouldn't be doing it. It's not our job. It would be evil. It would be wrong. But all of a sudden he flips up. So why? Because he's doing it for Israel. Why? Because Israel wants the Golan Heights, just like this gentleman talked about here, because there's tons of natural resources. They have part of it, but they don't have all of it. The remaining portion of the Golan Heights, ladies and gentlemen, happens to be in Syria. And according to Fox News, in an article of theirs in October of 2015, they openly stated that Genie Energy, an Israeli company called Genie Energy, whose major shareholders are Dick Cheney, okay, Rupert Murdoch, their boss at Fox News, and also Jacob Rothschild from London. These are the main shareholders of this company, and of course, this company has just recently sought, actually about a year or so ago, sought a license from the Israeli Supreme Court to drill in that area. But see, they have one problem, ladies and gentlemen, and his name is Bashar al-Assad, and this is precisely the reason why they got to get rid of him. Trump knows it. He's BSing us because he's part of the Jew world order. You heard that correctly. This is John Contreras from GreekNewsOnDemand.com. Please visit our website today, GreekNewsOnDemand.com, particularly the English section of our site. Thank you for listening.
Ozzy Skateboard, and you're listening to UCY.TV.